Hello, second grade, and happy Friday. We made it through another week, and I'm proud of how hard you've been working and how much you've been learning. We're going to do our math. I want you to get out your worksheet and have it with you while I'm talking because we'll work some of the problems together. So we've done multiplication with several different numbers and been focused on that. We've multiplied with 2, we've multiplied with 5, we've multiplied with 10. Today we're going to multiply with 1 and we're going to multiply with 0. Okay, and the same way that those other numbers have all followed a pattern and had sort of a rule that went with them, so do 1 and 0, right? And number 1 on your worksheet is 1 times 5. All right, now the rule for multiplying with ones is that when 1 is a factor, the product is the same as the other factor. Remember how math is its own language? In multiplication, these two numbers are the factors and your answer is the product. So what we can see is true there is that when 1 is a factor, the answer, the product, is going to be this other factor. 1 times 5 equals 5. If you pictured that and you're saying 1 set of 5, that's what you're asking. 1 set of 5 equals 5, right? So you can picture it like this. 1 set of 5 equals 5. And you can remember the rule. When 1 is a factor, the product is the other factor. So we do that again with number 2. It's number 2 is 2 times 1. 2 times 1 equals 2, because when 1 is a factor, the product is the other factor. Okay, and if you wrote that down, you're saying 2 sets of 1 equals 2, right? So these are simple. You want to make sure that you're always reminding your mind to you're not just adding, 2 times 1 isn't 3. You don't ever want to add. You want to always keep in mind multiplying and the rules of multiplying with 1. So you get to practice that probably 9 times, I think. And then they want you to practice doing with 0. The rule of multiplying with 0 is that when 0 is a factor, the product is always 0. Right? Let's look at number 10. On your worksheet, it says 3 times 0 equals 0. Okay? When 0 is a factor, the product is 0. If you were going to picture it, they're saying 3 sets of 0 is 0, okay? 0, 0, 0. It's nothing, all right? Number 11 says 0 times 5 equals, well, 0 sets of 5 equals 0. The rule for multiplying with zeros is that when one factor is 0, the product is 0. All right? That's an important math concept, and you'll keep on using it, and you're going to get chances to practice it today on your homework. On the back of your worksheet, it's fun. It's a coloring activity where you're going to use the numbers and color by number. I think you'll enjoy doing that. And you'll have a word problem as well, something you can draw to solve. So I hope you enjoy multiplying with 1s and 0s. It's a simple rule, and you'll get lots of chances to repeat it and practice it and help you memorize it. Now, while you have your colors out, crayons or colored pencils or markers or whatever you're using, you also have a coloring activity for phonics today. You have a sheet, the page 128 in your phonics book is a coloring activity, and you're going to be using what you know about long vowels to color this in, okay? So you'll find words with a long A, you'll color red. Words with a long E, you'll color green. Long I, you'll color yellow, and so on. And you'll remember that a long vowel is when the vowel says its own name. So if you say long A, then you're looking for words where you hear the A sound. right? And vowels can make different sounds. So you're just going to be listening for the long sounds and then using this key at the top to color in your picture. I look forward to seeing your finished products, okay? Now let's also review English because today is the day for quizzes. We've been talking about paragraphs that give instructions. Okay, so yesterday I wrote a paragraph up on the board and I gave clear instructions of how to have a tea party. Did any of you guys decide to have a tea party after you watched those instructions? I look forward to hearing next week. You'll be turning in your final draft of your instructions. But let's talk about what needs to go into a paragraph giving clear instructions. There are a few things you need to be sure you include in a paragraph that gives clear instructions. One, you need to make sure you have a title that tells what kind of instructions are going to be given. You need a good topic sentence because that opens the whole thing up, right? Then you need to be sure that you list your materials so that if they want to follow these instructions, they're going to know from the beginning what do they need to do this thing that you're telling them. So you want to be able to list the materials or tell the person the materials. Then as you tell them the steps from there, you want to be sure that you use time order words. Time order words and a closing sentence. So that's just a review of some of the things we've been learning in English. These are some things that are going to come up on your quizzes after you watch your video and do your other worksheets. You're going to want to get on Teams and take your quiz, your end of the week quiz. And some of these questions will come up about what does a good instructions paragraph? What are some things that it includes? And I'm so glad we've had all week to think about it, to practice it, to follow some instructions ourselves. And next week we'll work on getting our own paragraph written and just how we want it and turned in as a final draft. So this is a good review, and I look forward to seeing your work on your quizzes. We have been studying in history, chapter 8, about the southern colonies, and we're finishing that chapter and we're getting ready. Next week we'll go on to a new chapter with a new topic. So today what you need to do is fill out your chapter 8 review. That's page 163 and 164. And whenever we're studying, whenever we're doing either a study guide or a chapter review, we want to be really good students of our textbooks. Okay, any questions we have, we can ask our textbook those questions to find those answers. And when we take time to look back and review what we've read so far and fill out the answers on a review, that helps us really remember what we've learned so far. So let's look at this page. 163 is a map, and you're going to want to look at that map and answer the questions, all right? And any questions you have, if you look at this and you think, I'm not sure what the answer is, then I want you to open up your textbook and see if that can help you find the answers. Although in this case, I think as you're looking at the map, it's also going to help you, okay? This is asking you, what does the map show? You can know this because this map has a title. This map shows the 13 colonies. You can fill in that circle, right? And then it asks you about things that you can see on the map by noticing the details and using what you know, okay? So I want you to answer the questions on page 163, and I want you to answer the questions on page 164. This is going to prepare you for your quiz to close out this chapter of history. So study this well, use your history book, be a student of your textbook if there's anything you don't know. Let's see if you get to a question and you're not sure. The Virginia House of Burgesses made blank for the people. What if you can't remember? That was a while back that we read about that. Well, then you open your book and you look for that page in your book. You could just glance through and see if you see it. Like when I'm just glancing through, if they're asking a question about it, it's probably a bold print word, page 135, and I find that Burgess is the word that we've looked at. So then I can look right there to find information. If you're not sure what page it's on, and it's a bold print word, you can use your index at the back. And you can look up the word you have a question about. It's going to tell you what page you can find that information, right? So I want you to be a good student of your textbook and answer the questions on 163 and 164 so that you're ready for the quiz on Teams about this history chapter. So the Virginia House of Burgess has made laws for the people. That's what I found out when I looked it up and found that word and that section in my textbook. Okay, here we have, why did James Oglethorpe start a colony in Georgia? Well, to find out that answer, if you're not sure, you can look up the person, James Oglethorpe, or Georgia. Either one of those is going to give you the information you need. So do you remember a while back, Kyra, our grader, who's a senior, she was telling us how she gets ready for her quizzes and tests, and she just said she goes back to her textbooks and reads the information. It's right there for you. So you're building up these skills to be a good student of your textbook and look for the answers in your book and read them and then put them on the paper. That's going to help you really remember it, right? So work on this, Chapter 8 review, page 163 and 164, and you could use your book to find the correct answers. Then when it's time to take your quiz, you put all of that away and just use your brain to take your quiz, all right? Now it's Friday, so we have a spelling quiz on Teams. Before you go and take that, I want you to study and review your spelling list. You've been working hard on your spelling worksheets in your book, and I hope you've also been taking time to sometimes just write your spelling list down. These are the words. I'll read them to you. Let's listen to the sounds. Saw, all, dog, talk, long, call, draw, walk, tall, cost, law, song. Small, lost, ball, saddle, little, above, love, about. Right? So these words, the pattern words, all have the ah sound, but they're not all spelled the same way. Some of them have an AW making the ah. Some of them have just the A. Some of them have an O. So you need to review and study your words so that you are familiar with which pattern is which. Now, one of my own children, when it was time to do their spelling list, I thought this was a good idea. He just opened his spelling workbook and wrote down his words right next to the list in his workbook. And that could be a good idea. I know when we were in class together, I would hand out a worksheet like that you could just write down right next to it. But you can use your workbook in the same way. If it's a worksheet you've already completed, like the very first day one, there's space right here. You just write your words right there. And that way you've had a chance to write them down. When you write your words down, it helps you memorize them. And then you'll feel ready for your spelling quiz on Teams. This week we read a story called Granny Nell's Dulcimer. We read a little bit each day, and the main characters of that story were Granny Nell and Tansy. And I really liked that story of how they became friends and the different ways they helped each other. You might want to look back over your story before you take your quiz just to review who are the main characters, what was the stringed instrument, the new one we learned about, the dulcimer, right, that Granny Nell taught Tansy how to play, and the kind of music that Granny Nell was playing, that was folk music. I liked talking about that at the very beginning of the week, that folk music is old music that's from a long time ago, and each culture has its own type of folk music. And the folk music we're learning about in Granny Nell's Dulcimer is folk music from the Appalachian Mountains in America. So it's an American type of folk music from that area even. So I really enjoyed reading the story. I've enjoyed learning more about about that type of folk music, and I'm going to put a song in your assignments. I will link it so that you can listen to a song on a dulcimer, a mountain dulcimer even, same as our story, because I don't know about you, but I actually hadn't heard one or seen someone actively playing one, I don't think. So I'm going to put a link to a song for you to listen to as your assignment today. And then after you review your story, you will go on to Teams and take your quiz. All right. Now I want to also review our science today. This is also going to come up on your quiz. I want you to review the definition of these new vocabulary words. We've been talking about things and how things move. We've talked about motion, that's when things move. We've talked about force, a push or a pull to put things in motion. These are the new vocabulary words we came across this week, which is friction, gravity, and weight. And let's read the definitions for these. These are all bold print words in your book. Friction is a force that slows down or stops motion. And I showed you that. I gave you an example of that whenever I was rolling the little can of food on the table, and when the table was smooth, it rolled easily. And when I put a rug on the table, then there was friction and it made it move slower, okay? Friction, we'll just read the definition again. Friction is a force that slows down or stops motion. About gravity. Gravity is a force that pulls all things toward the center of the earth. And so we all encounter gravity all the time, even when we're not thinking about it. If you jump up in the air, you come back down, right? You don't just keep flying off into space. Weight is another vocabulary word. Weight is the measure of the force of gravity on an object. Sometimes we can use a scale to weigh an object to see how much it weighs. Maybe you have a scale at your house and you might want to try that. It's kind of fun to think about when you place an item on a scale and that's literally measuring the amount of gravity's pull on that object. So that's some review of science concepts and reading concepts, and I want you to, after you watch this video and finish your assignments, I want you to go on to Teams and, using only your brain, not your books anymore, fill out the quizzes, make sure your name is on it, and turn them in to me. And I hope you have a great weekend.